Joining me now, NewsNation political contributor, host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast, Chris Hahn, and former Republican Congressman from Illinois, Joe Walsh. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. Obviously, it's a word we at some point get tired of saying, unprecedented. Here we are again. Joe, I would like to start with you. How many rounds of this are we likely to go through? You know, Jordan's office says he will keep going. If he loses a third time, is that it? And then on to the next?
I think it comes to an end pretty soon here with Jordan. There may be one more round of voting. Look, I know Jordan well. I served with him. He's a bully. This is his style. He wants to, jab his finger in the chest of his colleagues and force them to publicly continue to say no to him until they bend. They're going to continue to say no to him. And then I think Jordan eventually is going to have to step aside, and the Republican Party is going to have to get behind Patrick McHenry or some sort of placeholder of a speaker.
Yeah, and Joe, I want to talk to you more about that, but Chris, I want to kick it over to you now. From your perspective, who is to blame for this? Is it House Republicans? Is it Representative Jordan himself? Is it a bit of both? I mean, is it the Dems?
Oh, it's House Republicans. They are in absolute, total chaos. Jim Jordan is a man who may have been partially responsible for the insurrection, and they were trying to make him Speaker of the House. That would be unpalatable to 19 members who are in districts where Joe Biden won. Like a guy like Mike Lawler can't go back to his, suburban New York district and say, I voted for a guy who tried to burn down the Constitution. That is not going to happen. But as for the mess we're in right now, we saw this coming in January. Republicans created a rule that allowed this to happen. They have said time and time again that they do not want to work with Democrats to create a coalition government. And believe me, I believe that there are at least 50 Republicans in the House of Representatives that would do very well to go work with Democrats, maybe create an independent Republican conference that can get things done for the American people instead of giving in to radicals in their caucus like Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz, because those people are not good for America. Voting for them means shutting down the government, no aid for Ukraine, and no aid for Israel. So it is time for them to start thinking about America first and forget about this partisan nonsense.
All right, so Joe, back to you now. I mean, you are a former representative. We just heard Chris there say he thinks there are at least 50 Republicans. What is the solution here? I mean, we just heard from Representative Garamendi there. Is it Tom Cole? Is it Mike Turner?
Yeah, and let me just disagree with my friend Chris on one notion, and maybe he wasn't saying this. Jordan is a radical. Matt Gaetz is a radical. But most of that caucus is. Let's remember, most of my former colleagues now in the Republican conference are MAGA. It is a MAGA party. Jim Jordan is, 19, 20 votes shy. The vast majority of that conference is with him because Jordan represents where this Republican Party is today, sadly. Now, again, he's at a point where he's not going to get below 20 people are going to stand firm against him. If he puts up another round of votes, it'll be more than 20. And then even he is going to have to step aside. But he and his people will not want to form some coalition speaker like a McHenry with the Democrats. So look, to me, this is on Republicans. They're going to have to come together and pick a Tom Cole, somebody like that, who's been there forever, and just move on.
All right. So, Chris, do you think any Democrats at this point, we heard Joe ask the question. I want to ask you, do you think any Democrats now regret voting to oust McCarthy?
No, I don't think they regret it. And Kevin McCarthy knows that votes for Speaker are not free from the other party. And if he wanted to stay Speaker of the House, he should have walked across the aisle and asked Hakeem Jeffries for the votes and offered him something in return for it. He did not do it. That's the way the House of Representatives is supposed to work. And I believe if a coalition government forms, let's say there is an independent Republican committee, and it only takes 5 or 6 of them for it to be effective, they're going to ask for something from Hakeem Jeffries as well, and they will get something. It's called power, right? I think these people get elected to Congress to actually get things done for their constituents, to achieve power for their home states. I don't understand why someone hasn't stepped up and tried to do that already. It baffles me that they will allow such chaos. But no, I agree with my good friend Joe here. The Republican conference did almost elect an insurrectionist Speaker of the House today. They were 21 votes shy. And I don't believe that everyone who voted for Jim Jordan is an insurrectionist, but they were willing to let him become Speaker of the House. And that is dangerous and a bad sign for our country. And it is why a guy like Joe, who I've had many friendly disagreements over the years, left the party and is now absolutely trying to stop that MAGA movement from taking over America.
Now, my last question I want to ask both of you. Joe, I will start with you, so we end with Chris. Do you think, when a House Speaker is eventually voted in, when someone is chosen, when the House agrees that this person will be the next Speaker, do we end up at this same place in the next 9 months or the next 6 months? Is this just now going to repeat?
It could easily happen. Look, Republicans told us that when they were going to take control of the House a year ago, that it was going to be 2 years of chaos and 2 years of investigating and 2 years of impeaching every Democrat they could kind of try to impeach.
Yep.
I don't think it matters who the next speaker is. I think my former party has proven to the American people they just are not capable of governing.
All right. And Chris, I want to give you the opportunity to answer as well. Do you think we'll be here yet again in another 9 months?
I think if the next speaker doesn't exact retribution on the 8 members who forced the ouster of Kevin McCarthy, they will be absolutely back here unless we have a coalition form in the House of Representatives where Democrats and Republicans are working together to not pay attention to the babies on the left like Matt Gaetz who are ruining this country and who do not care about legislation. This is a serious time in our history right now. There are real problems in the world. We need serious people solving those problems. And what we're seeing from the GOP right now in the House of Representatives, at least, does not give promise that we will solve those problems. So serious people on their side need to work with the Democrats and get things done. Yeah, because we certainly need some solutions there in Washington. All right, Chris Hahn, Joe Walsh, thank you both.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.